Hello, I'm Robert Diltz, and I want to say a few words about the Generative Coaching certification training that I'll be doing here in Tokyo with Stephen Gilligan. It's something that both of us are very excited about. It's a new development where we're bringing together our common backgrounds, starting together at the University of California at Santa Cruz when Bandler and Grinder were first creating NLP, and working with Milton Erickson. Stephen kind of branched more into the work with Erickson and hypnosis, eventually creating his generative self work. And I have stayed with the NLP path, but have developed what we call a third generation of NLP, a more systemic version. And now Stephen and I are joining back together to really bring this, I think, first of all, in and of itself, a generative combination. The bringing of these two things together is already a very interesting and creative work. But what these two things together can do, I think, is to really take coaching to another level. And the idea of generative coaching, generative means to create, to make something new, in particular, sort of to make something that hasn't even existed before. And what both Stephen and I have found in our own coaching work, and especially in the last years, is that many times you cannot use existing techniques, existing understandings. You've got to really create something new. You've got to go into a new territory. So the idea of generativity is you include what has come before, but you expand and transcend, and really something quite distinct comes out. So what that means practically is that for clients that are struggling with very challenging situations where there is no real sort of existing pathway that you can take, you've got to do a type of hero's journey, we might say. We will be drawing from our book on the hero's journey, but it's really about going into a new territory. And to do that, you need skills. And those skills have to do with things like forming vision, like discovering calling and mission, like being able to deal effectively with uncertainty and to allow creative new possibilities to come out of seeming conflict or dilemma. I think, obviously, if you take the work with Ericksonian hypnosis and NLP, you're also getting a very unique and powerful blend of the unconscious and the conscious, the right brain and the left brain. NLP its tendency is to be very explicit, it's very tool-oriented, it gives people a lot of steps, whereas the Ericksonian hypnosis is very interpersonal-oriented. It's very much about connecting to the creative unconscious. And so when you actually weave these two things together, you've got, it's like a type of virtual corpus callosum in the brain where you're suddenly uniting these things and you get a much deeper perspective. You get more of a three-dimensional view, sort of like the way our two eyes look at something and we see a greater view. Stephen and I have been working together, we've known each other for over 35 years, we've been working together, developing things for the last almost 20 years, and so this is the fruit of a lot of both individual but also joint work together. The way the program is laid out is there's 4 sessions. Stephen and I do the first together, then I do the second one, Stephen does the third one, and we do the last one together. So I think that allows us to really give people the full experience of, again, this a very generative framework where you get the combination and then the individual skills and then the combination again. Now, one of the basic principle of generativity is that you've got to, in some way, usually what happens is that as Einstein said, our thinking will create problems that the same thinking, no matter how much more of it you do, can't solve. So that's where you get so far. Actually, certain ways of thinking solve problems, they create solutions, but then you begin to become trapped in them. So actually one of the first steps of generativity is to find where there is rigidity, to begin to break down some of the older structures. That creates a type of crisis because you have, when things break down, you often will get a sort of a regression to a more primitive state. And you have to be able to manage that because breaking down does not always create progress, right? It can create this kind of regression. And yet, it's as a result of that, kind of moving back to a more primitive state, that you can put things together in a completely new way and then make a quantum leap forward. So what we're going to be doing is basically giving the skills for people. First of all, how do you identify places where you're rigid? Number two, how do we take them apart? How can we do that without violence, without wounding, without suffering? But also, how can we deal then with the things that do come up? Because there will be challenging experiences, difficult feelings, old wounds that will resurface, and yet those wounds are sometimes the foundation for the generativity itself. Sometimes that is going to be the key to, making a big leap into new possibilities. So what the next step then is to be able to hold all of these possibilities from a place of what we would call compassionate curiosity. A type of equanimity where I can take the light and the shadow, the darkness, the difficulties as well as the resources, and by holding them without needing to force something, it makes the possibility for something new to emerge. We have done this program only in this form once before. We've done a lot of work together, but we've done this once before, and what I can say was the results were truly astonishing, and people really grew. Not only did they grow professionally, but they grew personally as a result of this. And as a result of the feedback we got from that, we really felt this was something that we really want to bring farther into the world. And we are currently creating a foundation for generative change. Not only just generative coaching, but generative change in general, and that's going to be the certifying agent in this particular case. So I hope you join us. I look forward to this. I think it's an extremely exciting, energizing, it's also deep, it's enriching, and I think if you come, you'll remember it the rest of your life.